back to Sports Show. Time to have a look at footy, of course. So we thought we'd get the man that knows more about it than anyone else, Magarey medalist, super player with Essendon, of course, and a couple of other clubs along the way. The great Greg Anderson joins us. Ando, how are you?
Very well, yeah. I think it's my first time as a guest, so be nice to me. If you,
I know you will go straight under the heat, mate. Don't worry about that.
Could be your last.
Could be too, I know.
Mate, a lot of talk about the sling tackle. Now, we'll just take the clock back to your playing days, and all of a sudden, we see pictures appearing in the paper, Ando on a stretcher, Scotty Salisbury building beautiful homes, but he might have had a little bit to do with it at the time, mate. Where did the sling tackle and what's happening slip with you in that era?
Well, it seemed to be, probably a game where that's of time that seemed to be a lot more of it, and a bit more one-on-one, and probably they wanted the big physical aspect of it. Look, Scott never got reported, didn't get a game for putting me into Dreamland for about 10 or 12 minutes. So to the stage where now you get a sling tackle, guy gets up, runs off, plays next week, and that particular the player who's done the sling tackle gets 2 weeks. So it's interesting how much football's changed in so many years. And I still remember going back to, I reckon it was about 91. I was having a coffee with Kevin Sheedy, and he said we need to clean this game up because a lot of potential footballers are going to basketball. Michael Jordan's taken over, Scottie Pippen, Phil Smythe, etc., just taken over. And I think the parents, thought, or especially the mothers, thought that football was too rough of a sport. And I think it certainly has changed over time, our game, as we talk about it quite regularly. But to how far? And that's where you sort of do come into a lot of discussions about we've gone too far with it. The actual aggression at the ball is, you've got to taper back now. Aggression at the player, you have to taper back during the game of play, where I think what Kevin Sheedy was saying, the aggression at the ball and at the player probably wasn't at perhaps at the right moment or the spirit of the game scenario. It was a lot of behind the play, and I think the AFL, to their credit, have really changed the game to a great spectacle. But you sort of come to the stage now that you've got players that really aggressive at the contest and the player, and the player. Some players don't know how to protect themselves. They don't know how to turn when another player's coming for, or they want that free kick, or they want that player to get 2 weeks suspension. And I find that one with Jamie Elliott and Burton, I sort of think, I think they offered him 2 weeks straight up. But I actually, when you look at the actual footage and you slow it down, Jamie Elliott's actually trying to do a Palais goal. He actually turned himself around because he knows where the goals are, to trying to get that body to kick the ball virtually back over his head. So he's actually forcing himself to spin while Burton's tackling him, and he's the one who's actually speared himself down in that position in the ground. That's why I found that. Wow, 2 weeks straight away? I'd love to see what Jamie Elliott says. Jamie, do you actually try to kick that ball Palais style? So did you turn your 90 kilo big frame in towards your head towards the ground so you could kick it over your head for a goal? He's a goal sneak. He knows where the goals are. And you look at that bit of footage, and you think, oh, hang on, I think that's what he's trying to do.
Were you surprised that Port Adelaide did not challenge that?
Well,
to me, it was exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Now, okay, he was a Port Adelaide bloke and all that sort of thing, but that's beside the point. A lot of players do exactly what Elliott did. A lot of players will try and force their way out of the tackle, which can also bring them to a situation where they get slung. And I think that was the case on the weekend with him, that he did try and kick the footy, which is what every player would try and do.
And he's a goal snake. He'll turn his body inside out to kick a goal, Jamie Elliott, and he's brilliant at it. But I just sort of, what's the fine line? His head did hit the deck first, and it's reportable. But I know there's been a lot of talk over, especially after that incident, and I'm bringing it up because so many people brought it up to me, and I went back to actually watch the footage, and I said, all these people are right.
It's a funny one, isn't it?
But it's just interesting. And that's a situation. You got to, I still look at the, McAdamy, when you actually slow that down a little bit, he went for the contest. He went hard at the contest. The worst part of it is when you show the last second of it, because he hits him. But really, he was going for that ball, and he went forward, and obviously the player didn't know at all was ever going to protect himself. He left himself wide open. So I think today's footballers don't know how to protect themselves. They leave themselves open.
But I think there's a lot of common sense needs to come into football today. It's lacking badly in our football today, I think. Common sense from umpires, common sense from tribunals. You've got to have a look at these things in real context. Like you said, that last minute of that tackle looked really, or last second looked really ordinary. Yeah. But from start to finish,
he
if you looked
went
at
for
it
that
properly,
ball. He was going for that ball. But
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit rough, and I also think there's been a couple of others that have been a little bit dodgy this year already, because I think they're panicking. I think they panic.
It's sensitive. It's a sensitive issue,
I think
and it's on the back of concussion as well.
So I think I understand all that.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's why they didn't appeal Burton's, because I don't think they would have got anywhere with it.
Yeah.
I think they would have just gone, mate, you're going to get 2 weeks. Even if you can show us all the things that you've mentioned that are right, they're still going to go, no, you get 2 weeks.
But why? But why?
Because
if you can prove...
It's the sensitivity around the issue at the moment. In another couple of years, it might be different.
I remember saying
reverse it, Elliott tackling Burton. Would he have got 2 weeks?
Now you're talking about Collingwood and Melbourne.
I'm just saying, mate. I'm just saying.
But I remember saying
mate.
on this program many years ago that the football at the top level is so different to everything else. Yeah. I think everything else is catching up. I'm watching amateur league. I'm watching the under 18 competition. I'm watching 16 competitions, and they are playing that AFL style. They're not getting taught how to protect themselves. In the way of when you would have played it, when I would have played, So it's a different era, and at least I suppose the players are getting taught how to play the top end game, which is really important.
I reckon the biggest difference in all of that, I agree with what you're saying, is the speed.
Yeah,
I obviously was watching an AFL game on the weekend, then went from that the next day to the VFL, and then went back to watch some amateurs, and you go, the speed of the game. So that defends what you're saying, and what you're saying is that the speed of what that's happening at should be taken into account. Was he trying to sling tackle him, or was he just... I think he was trying to hold him, and then when he went to kick, he had no choice.
Well, there was no choice in the matter at all.
In the next level down, you've got more time.
That's right.
Hey, just quickly, because we've got a couple of things we've got to get to. Showdown 53, but the bump. There's been a lot of talk about that as well. Is the bump starting to disappear altogether?
Well, I think it has to. I mean, if you're a player, can you risk 2 week suspension? Can you risk a free kick in 50 on a bump? I think they're trying to take the bump out as well, and you've got to be super careful. But there's not too many that, and because it's also probably development now, that I think the bump's gone out of the under 18 competition, under 16 competition. So I think that's going to be phased out in a way of what we've seen it all those, and I suppose what we sort of in our glory years where we love the bump and we love all that style of play. But I think it's going to be less and less. I think it's going to be less and less.
They've just got to be careful with
also,
the game.
You probably don't need to either, because of the fact, I think it's like basketball. They let them have the ball at the top end, and they'll just get back and defend their key, in the forward. So, the chase down of that player across that half-back line doesn't happen as much as it used to. Yeah.
I saw a couple on the weekend. The bumps where players came in at 100 mile an hour, and when they got there was that hesitation.
No question.
It's just a thing, and that's going to cause injuries anyway. That's going to cause an injury to a player anyway for hesitating. If you
hesitate's the worst
in the game,
part. We know that you hesitate and
you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt if you hesitate, and that's what they're doing. Yeah. The other thing is, and very quickly, mate, because it's driving me mental. On the weekend, I'm getting tired of watching the game. This stand the mark rule has got to go. That has to go. Yeah. Because there was a player who moved. The penalty is too great.
It's too great.
The guy moved a foot, if that, because the player moved with the ball. So he went like that. Bang, straight away. And it's quick too. Bang, 50. Straight in front of goal. I look at that and I think, no, stop it. Because that is ruining the game.
The player go like around, but the player on the mark's not allowed to move.
He's not allowed to move.
And that's just not, once he moves left, he should be called play on straight away. That's what I thought the rule was.
Yep. Yeah.
But he's not called in play, even though the player's giving himself more angle
and they're
towards
the
goal.
And the player on the mask,
I think they've got
look where he is. Look where he is.
I like the fact that you blokes are not emotive about this at the moment. Damien Hardwick about to coach his 300th game tonight.
Fantastic.
Of course. He made a really interesting statement. When he first came in as coach, there were 15 pages for the rules of the game. There's now 223.
There you go.
So that gives you an
There you
idea.
go.
Quickly,
And
mate,
me and
because-
Barry would give another page.
Yeah,
to it,
no,
another
you
couple
guys,
of pages,
we've got to
I
wrap it
reckon.
up, mate. Showdown 53, Crows or Power for you?
Oh look, I think I went and saw the Power against the Brisbane Lions. They were fantastic. The Crows were good for a quarter last week, where they sort of caught up to Richmond. But I think that the Power have got a bit more of a settled side. So Power. Sorry,
Power for you.
yeah.
All right, you and I will discuss a little bit later. But the wheels are spinning. We've got to get to a break as quick as we can. Stay with us. Still, plenty to come on the show.